Today we're going to be learning about how to retouch photos. And that's a really important thing to do, especially whenever lots of times photos have blemishes and you want to correct something or you want to remove something from a photograph, which is a very, very common thing that photographers do, that graphics designers do. So what we're going to do is we're going to be working with some of these tools over here on our toolbar. Remember, this is our toolbar. This right here is called your options bar, and at the top is called your menu bar. Over here is your properties panels, and that's where we can see our layers that we have in the properties of those layers. Okay, so whenever you open up this file called delete content, you're going to want to go ahead and zoom it in so that you can see it more clearly. To do so, I always just come over here to my zoom tool. I click on my zoom tool, then I come up to my options bar, and I'm going to fit it to the area of my window right here. So that allows me to see it a little bit better. Today we're going to work with the spot healing brush, and if you see, we have a lot of spots all over her shirt, paint spots. So we're going to use this spot healing brush to delete them and to take them away. What Photopea does, or any software of this nature does, it looks for pixels, and it finds pixels that are similar to the area that you're working of, and it just takes and it will copy over those pixels to that area. So therefore, that means it's not perfect. So if I am looking to remove these right here, well, of course, it's going to come over here to this area. But the further I get near the edge of her shirt, it can start to pick up pixels from over here to copy over. So that's where it can get a little bit difficult. And that's why we're going to learn not one, not two, but a lot of different retouching tools. The tool that we're looking for is right here. It's called the Spot Healing tool. So if I click on it, you'll see that there are other tools behind it, but I want this one right here, the Spot Healing Brush tool. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over into my screen, and you see how tiny my brush is by that circle? Well, if I use my bracket keys, the open and closing bracket key on my keyboard, I can actually increase or decrease that brush size. So I'm going to increase it because it was a little bit too small for my taste. Now then, to remove a blemish, a spot, or anything, I'm just going to click and hold down my mouse, okay? Click and hold it down. And it's going to take just a tad bit of time because you are working on a website. So it does have a little bit of a delay. So click, hold, release, click, hold, release. And the bigger it is, the more time it may take. So you see I have some lag time in between when I release my mouse to whenever it actually does the copying of the pixels over and returns a finished product. So I'm going to go through and I'm just going to remove all those blemishes. Now the one thing you don't want to do is, because there is some lag time. Now if you're using Photoshop, it's the very same exact brush, same exact premise and exact directions. It does though, because you have downloaded a software onto your computer, it goes a lot faster. But what you don't want to do is, when you're working on something that is web-based, to keep clicking and clicking and clicking and clicking, because then you're going to get it to lock up. So you have to be patient. You're going to have to give it some time. All right, so it looks pretty good right here. Looks like I've gotten a lot of the blemishes and got them all taken away. And if you want to investigate further and look at it closer, then we probably need to switch over to our zoom tool and then come up here, and I'm going to get in really close and really look in at those pixels, and I see there's a couple more spots. So I'm going to go back, grab that spot healing brush, but now look, my healing brush is way too big. So I'm going to decrease it using those bracket tools, the bracket, going to click and release. Now, mind you, you don't want to do a click and do all of this like you're painting, because that will just create chaos on your photograph. Because you're doing squigglies everywhere, you want to do small click and release, small click and release. It's not like you're painting with a brush. You're just healing up some things. So I just click, drag, and release. And that's the best thing that you can do. Now see there, when I went over it too many times, it picked up the hair and it made it twice. So I'm going to do Control Z whenever I make a mistake and undo it. So now you see where I'm talking about that when you get too close to something, it will pick up pixels from other areas. So that's about as good as I'm going to get that in that area. I'm going to come back over here to my magnifier and I'm going to fit it to back the area. And as you can see, you can barely see it, just looks like a shadow now from her hair. So now that looks pretty good. All right, so the next thing I want to show you how to use is a different brush. And that brush that I'm going to show you how to use is called, well, it's not a brush, it's the clone stamp tool. And a lot of times people use the clone stamp tool so that they can cover up areas. So what we're going to do is we're going to come over here, and this is the clone stamp tool. It looks just like a stamper. Like if you have a stamp and you're going to stamp something with like a smiley face stamp or one of those kind of stampers. So I'm just going to click on it. Now here's the thing. If you notice too, I'm going to put it over the white coffee cup so you can see. It's pretty small. Again, I can increase and decrease the size of that using my bracket keys on my keyboard. Those bracket keys are located near your enter key. Okay, so I increased it a little bit because I wanted to be able to see where exactly it was at that I am going to clone stamp. Clone stamp means that I am going to select a targeted area of pixels. I'm going to set it or anchor it to a spot, and it's going to copy from that spot to another spot that I click and drag and paint over. In order to do that, I have to press down my Alt key. The Alt key is what will set or anchor my clone stamp. So I set my clone stamp down. I move my mouse over to the coffee cup. I'm going to press down Alt and click one time. So now that is anchored. So whenever I move my mouse away, you see in that circle there that it is white. That's because it is going to copy the pixels from this coffee cup area. And whenever I paint, I am painting that coffee cup. And you can tell if you look over by the coffee cup, you see a plus sign. It's showing me exactly where I am painting from. And there we go. So I just placed another coffee cup on the table. Anytime I want to clone stamp something, say I want to move it, I just hold down the Alt key, it changes to a plus sign, and I will click to anchor it, release the Alt key, and now I'm going to add some flowers in. I'd like to add another one of these flowers right here. I'm going to watch where that plus sign is so that I can make sure that I don't go over to a different area that I don't want. I just want to be copying. And there you go. So the object with the clone stamp tool is for it to look as natural as possible. And so you can take and add things in. And remember, if you go too far, you can always go back, undo it, and add in your Control Z and then try it again. And watch where that you're copying from. That'll make it a whole lot easier for you. Now you see right here that doesn't look very good, so I might go back and use my healing brush on that to remove it later. Okay, so I hope that you learned something today with the fact that you have a clone stamping tool that will clone stamp any area. It takes the pixels exactly from the area that you anchor to, and it will paint them wherever, transfer them wherever you want it to go to in that photograph. So you have your clone stamp tool, and then you have a spot healing brush.